Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. Listen, before I even open the kettle, I need you to sit down, scoot all the way back into that couch, and pour yourself something cold, because what dropped on the red carpet last night didn't just slip out of somebody's mouth. It kicked open a door that two grown adults had been holding shut with both hands for years. And once you hear what was said, you are going to understand why the timeline these two have been selling the public is, in my very personal opinion, allegedly held together with chewing gum, a prayer, and a very expensive publicist. So here we are. The BET Awards are on. The cameras are flashing. The dresses are giving. The boxing champ Claressa Shields is walking that red carpet like she owns the deed to it, and standing right next to her, looking like he has practiced this exact pose in a mirror, is Papoose. The same Papoose who, for the better part of 2 decades, was branded to the culture as the loyal husband. The man who married Remy Ma while she was still locked up. The man who waited. The good guy. The brand. The blueprint. And he is now strolling a red carpet with the woman who has been, depending on which day you ask the internet, his side piece, his entanglement, his rebound, his mistress, or, as Chris Cyborg so famously put it, his open season. And before Claressa Shields could even finish smiling at the camera, she opened her mouth and basically told on both of them. On live television. With a microphone in her face. Honey, allegedly, of course. All of this is allegedly. Everything I am about to say is in my own personal, very personal opinion, strictly for entertainment. The Copyright Act of 1976 is in the description, and none of this is personal. Now buckle up, because the timeline ain't timelining and the math ain't matching. Let me set the scene for you, because context is everything. Just 24 hours before that BET red carpet, there was a major fight night. The kind of fight night Claressa Shields, a literal world champion boxer, would normally not miss for anything short of the rapture. And where was she? Was she ringside? Was she in Papoose's corner? Was she even in the same time zone? No, ma'am. She was a whole bridesmaid. At somebody else's wedding party. Standing next to Nene Leakes, of all people, holding flowers and pretending the biggest night in the sport she actually competes in wasn't happening across the country. And meanwhile, Papoose was at the fight. With his little entourage. With Gilly. The same Gilly, by the way, who sat down with Claressa for that infamous interview where, allegedly, Claressa Shields herself laid out a timeline that did not match the one she and her man would later sell to the press. The same interview where Tamron Hall's name keeps floating around because of a separate sit-down where Claressa got cornered on dates, and her mouth said one thing while her eyes were screaming. So pause. Because that alone should make you raise an eyebrow. Big fight night, partner not there, then suddenly 24 hours later we're getting a glossy red carpet rollout at the BET Awards like nothing ever happened. Claressa Shields, you didn't even attend the fight, baby. You couldn't reschedule a bridesmaid duty to support your alleged man, but you can fly straight to Los Angeles to make sure every photographer in the building captures the two of you in matching outfits? Make it make sense. Because it is giving optics. It is giving a controlled narrative. It is giving, please look over here and not at the empty seat at the fight. And then she opened her mouth. And what came out of it, in my opinion, blew the whole story wide open. Now here's the moment, because I want you to really sit with it. Claressa Shields is on that red carpet. The interviewer is doing what interviewers do, asking softballs, complimenting the fit, asking how she feels. And then Claressa Shields turns to Papoose and asks, and I quote in essence, is this year 2 or year 3 of us being at the BET Awards together? Year 2 or year 3? Year 2 or year 3? And before she could even finish the question, Papoose jumps in like a man who has rehearsed this answer in his sleep and says, 2, the second one, last year. Did you catch that? Did you catch how fast that came out of him? That wasn't a memory. That was a script. That was a man who knows exactly what the public narrative is supposed to be, and he is locking it in before his girlfriend can wander off the agreed map. Because here's the thing, here is the part that has my entire jaw on the carpet. According to the official Claressa and Papoose fairy tale, their relationship anniversary isn't even until August or September of this year. They have publicly, repeatedly, on podcasts, in interviews, in carefully worded captions, told the world that they only became a couple in the summer of 2024. The Shakur Stevenson fight. The hug. The smile. The hand on the small of the back. That, they claim, is when this whole thing began. And by their math, they are barely 2 years deep. Barely. As in, the cake isn't even baked yet. As in, August or September hasn't arrived. As in, you are not even at the 2-year mark on the calendar. So how, Claressa Shields, how, sweetheart, are you on a red carpet asking out loud, in front of cameras, in front of microphones, in front of God and Vivica Fox, whether this is your second or your third BET Awards together? Because last I checked, math is math. 2 BETs ago means at least a full year and change of public appearances. 3 BETs ago? Honey, that takes us all the way back to a window where the official story says you and Papoose were nothing more than friends. A window where Papoose was, in his own words, still very much a married man with a wife, a household, and a daughter under his roof. A window where you were allegedly playing the friendliest friend role on Instagram, leaving the warmest comments, sending the sweetest birthday wishes, learning the wardrobe, learning the itinerary, learning when Remy Ma was in Vegas, what film she was watching on the plane, what salad she ordered for lunch, what brand of sneakers were in her closet. The whole dossier. From the friend zone. While allegedly already running a separate, private, very much not friendly conversation with the husband. So when Claressa Shields opens her mouth on a red carpet and casually offers up year 3 as an option, that is not a slip. That is a confession dressed up in lip gloss. That is what we in the gossip cinematic universe call a Freudian flex. She wanted to brag. She wanted the world to know that she has been showing up to these things with this man for a long time. And in trying to flex, she accidentally spilled an entire jug of tea on the floor that her own publicist now has to mop up with her bare hands. And the receipts of her exposing herself don't stop there. Because remember Francon Crow? Francon Crow has been on record saying that Claressa Shields herself pulled her aside, along with someone else, and detailed an entanglement with a married man long before any of the public timelines ever surfaced. Long before the Easy the Block captain situation. Long before Remy Ma was being painted in tabloids as the one who allegedly stepped out first. Long before any of us were given a press-ready story to swallow. The whisper in the room, allegedly, was already there. The receipts, allegedly, were already there. The seeds were already planted. And the carefully rolled out 2024 narrative we were handed was, in my opinion, a public relations sandcastle built on top of a much older, much messier foundation. Now let me be clear, because I want every viewer to follow me here. The story Papoose and Claressa Shields have sold to the world is very specific. The story says Remy Ma was first. The story says Remy Ma allegedly stepped out with Easy the Block captain. The story says Papoose was the wounded husband sleeping on the couch since May of 2022, holding the marriage together with duct tape and dignity until he finally tapped out. The story says Claressa Shields entered the picture only after the doors of that marriage were already shut, and she walked into a clean situation. The story says the affair, the side chick, the entanglement, none of that label applies, because the timing was clean. That is the story. That is the narrative they need you to walk away with. That is the story they have been spoon-feeding to every podcaster who will hold the spoon. The problem? Year 3. The problem is that one sentence, that one little throwaway line, that one careless question Claressa Shields tossed out before her brain could catch her tongue. Because if it is year 3 of you at the BET Awards together, baby, the entire timeline collapses. The walls of the story come down. The whole public relations house of cards turns into confetti. Because year 3 of red carpet appearances means you were on red carpets with this man during a window where he was, by his own legal status, very much, very loudly, very visibly married. To Remy Ma. And not separated. And not divorced. And not estranged. Married. With a wedding ring. With shared kids. With anniversary posts going up. So which is it, Claressa Shields? Is it year 2, like Papoose hurried to confirm? Or is it year 3, like your own mouth offered up first? Because the world needs you to pick a lane. The fans are watching. The blogs are zooming in. The receipts are being printed in 4K. And once those two stories diverge on camera, in the same conversation, in the same 15-second clip, that is what we in the business call a moment. That is what we call a smoking gun. That is what we call, very simply, the cover-up cracking in real time. Now hype the video, hype it like you mean it, smash that like button, hit subscribe, ring the bell, because we are not even in the second act yet, baby. Keep going with me. We are about to walk through every single piece of this. Let's talk about the BET Awards itself for a second, because there is a whole separate scandal unfolding right next to this one, and the two are absolutely connected. Claressa Shields is once again nominated for BET Sportswoman of the Year. Once again. After a year where the field, in my personal opinion, includes Aya Wilson. Yes, that's Aya Wilson. The MVP. The champion. The cover of Time magazine Aya Wilson. The Met Gala Aya Wilson. The endorsement queen. The franchise face. The most influential athlete in her sport. The woman who walked into 2024 and 2025 and bent every record in her vicinity. And we are supposed to believe that Claressa Shields walking around carrying her championship belt like a Birkin and tweeting passive-aggressive shade at Angel Reese is the resume that should win Sportswoman of the Year over Aya Wilson? Be so real with me. Be so for real. Because if Aya Wilson does not walk away with that statue tonight, it is going to be a problem. A loud, organized, public problem. It is going to be, as we say at home, on like popcorn. It is going to be like Donkey Kong. Because the only way you hand that trophy to Claressa Shields over Aya Wilson is if there is a backroom favor in play. And what a coincidence. What an absolute coincidence. That Claressa Shields just so happens to be photographed cozying up with Angel Reese at a recent WNBA game right after Claressa Shields herself had been on the timeline last year, disrespecting Angel Reese's previous BET win and calling it some kind of pity trophy. A Lifetime Achievement Award for accumulated accolades, Claressa Shields said, basically waving her hand at the idea that Angel Reese had earned anything in the calendar year. Now suddenly, this year, Claressa Shields is buddy-buddy with the same woman she dragged 12 months earlier. Right before another BET nomination. Right before another shot at that exact same trophy. Allegedly, allegedly, allegedly. The optics, my friends, are screaming. The optics are screaming and the optics are saying photo op. And while we're on the topic of Claressa Shields and contradictory behavior, let's revisit this red carpet moment one more time, because the specific wording matters. Claressa Shields didn't say, "Hey babe, how many of these have we been to?" She didn't say, "Is this our first or second?" She didn't even round down. She offered up year 3 as a real, plausible option. Out loud. With confidence. Which means in her own mental ledger, year 3 is on the table. Year 3 feels right to her. Year 3 is something her own memory considers a viable answer. That tells me, in my own opinion, that the woman who is supposedly only 2 years into this relationship is sitting in the back of her own brain doing the math for 3 years. And brains don't lie about that. Mouths might. Publicists definitely do. But the brain, when it casually tosses out a number in a moment that wasn't supposed to be a math test, the brain is giving you the real answer. And then look at Papoose's reaction. Look at how fast he jumped in. 2. The second one. Last year. Boom, boom, boom. No pause. No reflection. No, oh let me think babe. Just instant lock-in on the narrative. Because Papoose knows. Papoose understands exactly what is at stake if that timeline shifts even 1 inch. Papoose knows that if year 3 becomes the public record, every single article that ever framed Remy Ma as the alleged first cheater suddenly looks like manufactured cover. Every single podcast where Papoose nodded along while a host described him as the wounded husband suddenly looks like a script reading. Every single fan who defended Papoose as the loyal one suddenly has to reckon with the possibility that the loyal one was loyal to 2 different addresses. So Papoose, allegedly, jumps in fast. Because Papoose has been doing this dance for years and he knows where every floor tile is wobbly. Hype the video, please hype the video, because there is more. Now let me walk you back to the very beginning of how all of this came into public view, because young viewers, new viewers, casual viewers, you have to understand the architecture of this whole situation. Architecture is everything. Because for the longest time, Remy Ma and Papoose were marketed to the culture as black love. Period. Full stop. They had reality television. They had a music video literally called Black Love. They were the couple every aunt held up at Sunday dinner and said, "That, right there, that is what you find." He waited for her. He visited her in prison. He married her behind bars. He held her down. That was the brand. That was the lore. That was the foundation that Papoose, the man, has built his entire public persona on. Loyalty. Patience. Devotion. And then, slowly at first, then suddenly all at once, cracks started to appear. Remy Ma was being followed by whispers of her own situation with a man called Easy the Block Captain. Receipts started flying. Photos. Audio. Stories. The internet did what the internet does and went into full forensic mode. And in the middle of all of that smoke, the brand new public narrative was rolled out. Papoose, the wounded husband. Papoose, sleeping on the couch since May 2022. Papoose, holding it together but quietly suffering. Papoose, eventually finding solace in the strong, confident, world champion arms of Claressa Shields. A clean, redemptive arc. A man who waited too long for a woman who allegedly didn't wait at all. A man who finally moved on with someone worthy of his patience. That is the story. That is the brand pivot. And listen, I will be honest with you. Plenty of people bought it. Plenty of people retweeted it. Plenty of people, in my opinion, wanted to believe it because the alternative is uglier. The alternative is that the loyal husband brand was, allegedly, never as loyal as advertised. The alternative is that Papoose may have been entangled with Claressa Shields long before Remy Ma's name was attached to any other man. The alternative is that the entire Easy the Block captain rollout may have, allegedly, been timed and amplified specifically to give Papoose a narrative cushion. The alternative is that there is no clean redemption arc. There is just a man, 2 women, and a lot of nights nobody can fully account for. And the alternative is what year 3 sounds like to me. Year 3 sounds like the alternative is true. Let me give you another piece of the puzzle. According to Remy Ma herself, even after the Easy the Block captain scandal broke, Papoose was still in the house. Still on the couch. Still tied up in the same address, the same financial life, the same shared parenting reality. He didn't pack a bag and go. He didn't move into a hotel and grieve. He stayed. And while he stayed, allegedly, simultaneously, he was already deeply enmeshed with Claressa Shields. The kind of enmeshed that produces red carpet photographs. The kind of enmeshed that produces magazine moments and Waymaker awards and gushing public quotes about Black Love Part 2. So please, somebody, please explain to me how you are simultaneously a wounded husband heartbroken on a couch and a man in a brand new fairy tale romance, making cinematic appearances at fight nights and award shows. Pick a tab. You cannot have both tabs open at the same time. You cannot grieve a marriage while you are walking another woman down a red carpet. Or, well, you can, but then the loyal husband brand collapses, and that is exactly what is happening right now in real time. And here is what really cooks me. Here is what bothers me on a personal, philosophical level. The whole foundation of why Papoose has been forgiven over and over again by this culture is the idea that he was the steady one. The patient one. The one who held the marriage together. Strip that away, and what is left? A man who, allegedly, was running a parallel romantic life while wearing a wedding ring. A man who, allegedly, leveraged a tabloid scandal about his wife to repaint himself as the victim. A man who, allegedly, then walked his new partner onto red carpets timed precisely to reinforce the new public narrative. That isn't loyalty. That isn't black love. That is, in my opinion, public relations choreography. A whole dance. A whole routine. And year 3 is the foot that finally hit the wrong note. Let me say this clearly, and I want every commenter to drop their thoughts below, because I genuinely want to know how you see it. It is rare, statistically rare, anecdotally rare, just generally rare, for a married woman to be the first one to step outside the marriage. 9 times out of 10, and I am not making this up, I am telling you what every relationship expert, every therapist on TikTok, every aunt at the cookout has been saying for decades, 9 times out of 10, when a wife eventually does step out. She is stepping out after she has already been disrespected, ignored, gaslit, financially squeezed, or out-and-out cheated on first. She is not the originator of the betrayal. She is the response to it. Now, is that a universal law? No. Are there exceptions? Of course. But when you look at the pattern of a man who allegedly refuses to leave the home even after he has been publicly cleared to do so, when you look at a man who clings to the marital address while simultaneously rolling out a high-gloss new relationship, what does your gut tell you? Because mine, in my own personal opinion, is saying that the original wound is older than the public scandal. The original wound is older than 2022. The original wound, allegedly, might even be older than 2020. And speaking of 2020, can we talk about that interview rumor for a second? Because long before any of this was on red carpets, long before any of this was in headlines, there were whispers that Claressa Shields had slid into a married man's direct messages somewhere around 2020. Not 2024. Not 2023. Not even 2022. 2020, 5 years ago. A pandemic-era whisper. A receipt that, if true, would change every single thing about the public timeline that has been printed since. Claressa Shields herself, in a separate sit-down, allegedly stumbled over the dates, did the loud no routine that she now does whenever this topic gets too close to a real answer, and tried to wave it away. I tried to scream past it. I tried to reset the conversation. But the question was asked. The number was floated. And it never really went away. Now stack that 2020 whisper next to last night's year 3 slip. Stack it. And tell me what shape it makes. Because to me, in my personal opinion, the shape it makes is a man and a woman who have been entangled allegedly far longer than they want any of us to know. The shape it makes is a relationship that did not begin at a Shakur Stevenson fight in July 2024. The shape it makes is a partnership that, allegedly, was already humming in the background long before the Easy the Block captain story conveniently lit up the front pages. The shape it makes, in my opinion, is a strategic public unveiling, not an organic beginning. And every time someone in the public asks about the timeline, what happens? Claressa Shields gets loud. Claressa Shields gets defensive. Claressa Shields starts screaming. Claressa Shields calls reporters liars. Claressa Shields calls bloggers fake news. Claressa Shields will fight you, will sue you, will tweet you, will subtweet you, will threaten you. Because when you have nothing to hide, you don't fight that hard. When you have nothing to hide, you laugh. You shrug. You make a meme. You move on. The defensiveness is, in my opinion, the tell. The defensiveness is the polygraph. And the louder Claressa Shields gets every time the dates are questioned, the more I am inclined, in my own very personal opinion, to believe the dates being questioned are real. Now let's talk about Remy Ma, because she deserves a paragraph in this story too, and frankly, I think the culture has done her dirty. Remy Ma has been called everything in the book. She has been painted as the villain, the cheater, the destroyer of black love, the reason the brand broke. And maybe, allegedly, she made her own mistakes. I am not going to sit here and pretend Remy Ma is a saint. I am not in her marriage. I am not in her bedroom. I am not in her bank account. But what I am going to say loudly, what I am going to say with my whole chest, is that the public is being asked to convict Remy Ma based on a timeline that, last night, on live red carpet television, fell apart in real time. The public was told Remy Ma was first. The public was told Papoose was the wounded one. The public was told Claressa Shields was the next chapter, not the parallel chapter. And year 3 says, Year 3 says, maybe. Year 3 says, are we sure? Year 3 says, let's go back to the tape. Because if Claressa Shields and Papoose have been quietly intertwined since 2020, and that is a big if, allegedly, but it is the if that the receipts are pointing toward, then everything Remy Ma has been accused of needs a new frame. Then every moment Remy Ma has been mocked for needs a new context. Then every time the internet piled on Remy Ma, in my opinion, the internet was, allegedly, dancing to a song that was written by the very people who were trying to disappear behind it. That is heavy. That is heavy. And I want you to feel the weight of that as we keep going. Hype the video. Hype the video. This is your reminder to like and subscribe, ring that bell, share this with the group chat, because the next part has me speechless. Let's talk about the optics of last night's specific red carpet rollout one more time, because I cannot stress enough how strategic this appearance was. Claressa Shields didn't just show up. Claressa Shields showed up, declared her presence on social media, made sure her followers knew Papoose was attached at the hip, made sure the cameras caught the entry, made sure her caption used phrases like killers in the back, and made sure her publicist was right there in the front. This was not a casual, oh we happen to be in the same room appearance. This was a deliberate, full glam, full press, full orchestra production. Which means Claressa Shields wanted, needed, demanded that the world see her with Papoose. Why? Because the last few weeks have been quiet. Too quiet. They haven't been publicly photographed in a meaningful way in a minute. Claressa Shields was in Atlanta doing her Baddies audition rounds. Papoose was in New York doing whatever it is Papoose does in New York. And in the absence of public photographs, the internet started to whisper. Are they okay? Did Remy Ma pull him back? Did Claressa Shields finally read a chart? Did the entanglement entangle itself into a knot? People were starting to wonder. So what do you do when people are wondering? You manufacture content. You manufacture a moment. You walk a red carpet. You smile at the camera. You drop a tagline. You declare killers in the back. You make the optics so loud nobody can hear the whispers anymore. That is the play. That is the strategy. And it almost worked. It almost worked because the dress was beautiful, the lighting was favorable, and the chemistry was being performed at a 10 out of 10. It almost worked. Until Claressa Shields opened her mouth and asked year 2 or year 3. Until Papoose answered too fast. Until the seam of the story snapped open in front of every camera in the building. And that is the part the publicist cannot fix. You can fix a bad outfit. You can fix a missed photo op. You can fix an awkward pose. You cannot fix a contradiction caught on tape between the two co-stars of the same story. You cannot fix a wife who isn't a wife answering one number while the husband who isn't a husband answers another. The math is the math. The clip is the clip. And the internet has the clip. Let me also point out something nobody has been saying loudly enough, because in my opinion this is the elephant in the room. Why is Claressa Shields, a world-class athlete, this thirsty for red carpet validation with this specific man? Why does every public moment of her romantic life require Papoose to be standing next to her like a prop? Why does her public-facing brand seem to revolve around the idea of being seen with this particular man rather than just being herself, the champion, the icon, the athlete? Because, in my personal opinion, the answer is that the validation is the entire point. The validation that he chose her. The validation that she won. The validation that the narrative she has been quietly cultivating for years has finally, publicly, paid off. And that need to perform the win is, in my opinion, exactly what tripped her up. People who actually win don't need to flex. They just live. People who are still performing the win? They slip, and they say year 3. Now let me get into something I have been holding back, because I want to give you the full picture. Claressa Shields and the way she has positioned herself toward Remy Ma over the years, allegedly, has not been the behavior of a casual acquaintance. It has been the behavior, in my opinion, of someone studying, someone watching, someone collecting data, friendly comments under photos, curious questions about wardrobe, curious questions about scheduling, curious questions about who Remy Ma was traveling with, what city she was in, what menu she was ordering off of, what movie she was watching on a long flight, who was babysitting, who was driving, who was scheduling. To the untrained eye, that looks like friendship. To my eye, in my own personal opinion, that looks like surveillance. That looks like a notebook being filled out. That looks like, allegedly, an exit window being identified. And when you stack that pattern against the year 3 slip, the picture, my friends, gets uglier and uglier and uglier. I want to be fair, because fairness is important and entertainment commentary is not a courtroom. There are alternative explanations. Maybe Claressa Shields just miscounted. Maybe year 3 was a brain fog moment. Maybe she conflated the BET Awards with another red carpet event. Maybe she just lost track of time, because we all lose track of time sometimes. I will give you all of that as a possibility. I will. But here is the thing. When the official anniversary isn't even on the calendar yet, when the official story says you only got together less than 2 summers ago, when the entire brand of your relationship is built on the cleanliness of the timeline, you don't get to be fuzzy on the number. You don't get to wave it away. You don't get to laugh and say, oh, I just got confused. Because the people whose love story is being measured by that exact calendar need you to be precise. And Claressa Shields was not precise. Claressa Shields offered up year 3. Out loud. And no number of corrections from Papoose will erase the moment her mouth made that suggestion first. Hype the video, please, please, hype the video. Let me bring in another thread for you, because the story doesn't live in a vacuum. Remember when Claressa Shields and Papoose were last spotted publicly together? It was Grand Rapids, Michigan. There was a fight. They walked in. There was a Fat Joe and Remy Ma song playing on the speakers of all things, of all songs, of all moments, just as Remy Ma's verse was about to drop. And we see Ruben from Win Records walking up to Claressa Shields for what looks like a hug. And right behind Ruben in the frame is Papoose. And then the camera cuts. We never see the resolution of that frame. We never see what happens next. We never see the hug or the no hug or the kiss or the brush off. We just see Papoose lingering in the background of his alleged girlfriend's moment with another man at the exact moment his actual legal wife's voice is on the loudspeaker. The whole thing reads like a film school exercise in irony. The whole thing reads like the universe trying to send Papoose a message. And Papoose, of course, smiled, kept it pushing, and headed off to whatever was next. And after Grand Rapids? Silence. Like I said, weeks of quiet. Claressa Shields back in Atlanta auditioning. Papoose back in New York handling his New York business. No couple photos. No date nights. No public outings. And we all started to side-eye. Are they on the rocks? Did Remy Ma play a card we didn't see? Did Claressa Shields finally figure out what year it actually was in her own relationship? Speculation grew. Theories piled up. The blogs were eating well. And then, suddenly, the BET Awards. Suddenly, the red carpet. Suddenly, the dress. Suddenly, killers in the back. Suddenly Papoose, standing right there, smiling for the cameras like he hadn't just spent weeks ghost-walking through his own relationship. This is what we call a controlled narrative deployment. This is what we call rebranding through optics. And, in my opinion, it tells you everything you need to know about how much trouble was happening in private. Because couples who are actually okay don't need to perform recovery on a red carpet. Couples who are actually okay just exist. The bigger the public performance, the bigger the private problem. That is just how this game works. And let me throw in one more layer for your consideration. Claressa Shields nominated for Sportswoman of the Year. Claressa Shields walking in on the arm of Papoose. Claressa Shields tightly coordinated with a high-profile publicist. Claressa Shields fresh off a sudden, eyebrow-raising photo op with Angel Reese after dragging Angel Reese the previous year. All of this in the same week. All of this in the same news cycle. Coincidence? Or, in my opinion, a tightly choreographed PR campaign to position Claressa Shields as a sympathetic, beloved, deserving public figure right when the trophy decision is being finalized? You decide. You decide. Drop it in the comments. Tell me what you see when you connect those dots. And while you're at it, tell me this. If Aya Wilson does not win Sportswoman of the Year tonight, will you accept the outcome quietly? Because I won't. And I don't think the culture should. I really don't. Aya Wilson has earned this. The receipts are clean. The receipts are loud. The receipts do not require any red carpet maneuvering. Aya Wilson should walk away with that trophy. And if she doesn't, I want to see every commenter, every viewer, every casual fan, every diehard fan, raise their voice. Because at a certain point, awards stop meaning anything if they stop being given to the most deserving recipient. At a certain point, the lifetime achievement style logic that Claressa Shields herself mocked when Angel Reese was nominated last year becomes the very logic Claressa Shields would need a panel to apply to her. The irony, honey. The irony. Alright. Let me bring all of this home, because we have covered a lot of ground, and I want to leave you with the big picture, the clean summary, the elevator pitch you can take into your group chats tonight. Claressa Shields and Papoose have been selling the public a very specific timeline. That timeline says they became a couple in the summer of 2024, after Papoose's marriage to Remy Ma had effectively imploded, after the Easy the Block captain scandal had broken open the floodgates, and after Papoose had spent years allegedly sleeping on a couch in a marriage that was over in everything but paperwork. That is the official story. That is the script. That is the brand. Last night, on a BET Awards red carpet, with cameras rolling and microphones live, Claressa Shields, the woman at the center of that script, asked her partner whether this was their second or their third BET Awards together. Year 3. Out loud. With her own mouth. Before Papoose could speed correct her with 2, the second one, last year. And that single moment, that single throwaway question, in my own personal opinion, cracked the foundation of the entire public narrative in half. Because year 3 takes us back to a window where Papoose was, by every legal and public measure, still publicly married to Remy Ma. Year 3 takes us back to a window where the official Papoose and Claressa origin story doesn't even exist yet. Year 3 is, allegedly, the truth slipping out through a smiling mouth on a red carpet. When you stack that slip with the 2020 whisper, with the Francon Crow account, with the surveillance-style friendship Claressa Shields allegedly maintained toward Remy Ma, with Papoose's refusal to leave the marital home even after the Easy the Block captain story broke, with the suspiciously perfectly timed photo ops, with the suspiciously perfectly timed Angel Reese reconciliation, with the suspiciously perfectly timed BET nomination, with the suspiciously perfectly timed red carpet roll. Out the night after a missed fight night, the math, my friends, stops mathing. The math collapses. The math, in my opinion, tells a different story than the one Papoose and Claressa Shields would like the culture to walk away with. And the story it tells, allegedly, is this. Claressa Shields and Papoose have been entangled, in some form, for much longer than the public has been told. The 2024 Fight Night unveiling was a launch event, not a beginning. The Easy the Block captain scandal was, allegedly, deployed as cover. Remy Ma has been carrying public blame for an alleged sin that may have been a response to a much older one. And Papoose has been protected, brand-wise, by a narrative that, on a BET red carpet last night, finally started to wobble. So, this is what I want you to do for me. I want you to like the video. I want you to subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed yet, because I post this kind of breakdown all week long. I want you to hit the bell so you know the minute the next chapter drops. And I want you to head down to the comments and tell me, plainly, in your own words, what your gut is telling you. Is it year 2? Is it year 3? Was it always year 3? Was Remy Ma set up? Was Claressa Shields the original architect of this whole entanglement? Did Papoose play every side of this chessboard? Tell me. Argue with me. Bring receipts. Bring theories. Bring questions. Bring your auntie's opinions. I read everything. And if you want to know what I think? In my very personal opinion, with all the allegedlys in the world tied to it, with all the for entertainment purposes only stamps applied, I think year 3 was the truth. I think year 3 has been the truth for a while. I think the official 2-year clock was always a press release dressed up as a relationship. And I think Claressa Shields just gave us the receipt we have been waiting for. Live. On camera. In front of God and every microphone in the building. In a sentence, she will spend the next 6 months trying to walk back. In a sentence, her publicist will spend the next 6 months trying to bury. In a sentence, the internet, mercifully, will never, ever, ever let her forget. Year 2. Year 3. Pick a lane, baby. Because the culture is watching, the math is matching, the receipts are receiving, and the truth, eventually, always finds its way out the side of somebody's mouth. Always. Without fail. Especially on a red carpet. Especially with a microphone. Especially when the lights are too bright to lie in. So that is where we are tonight. That is the chapter. That is the cliffhanger. And I promise you, the next chapter is coming faster than you think. Because Papoose, allegedly, has not even begun to clean up the timeline mess Claressa Shields just lit a match to. And when he tries, because he will try, you know he will try. The man is too brand conscious not to try. I'll be right back here, kettle on, cup poured, ready to walk you through every wobble, every retraction, every podcast appearance, every quiet little caption edit. I'll be watching the captions for you. I'll be watching the comments. I'll be watching the receipts. So you don't have to. Just hit that like, hit that subscribe, and meet me right back here for the next step. Because if you thought year 3 was loud, baby, you have not heard anything yet. I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Sending you good vibes, good energy, good rest, good love. Be kind to your group chat. Don't fall asleep on the receipts. And I will see you very, very soon. Bye, my love.